Hi drummers, hope you're well. Right, just a quick one for you today. How to play the drum groove from Brimful of Asha by Cornershop. This is the Norman Cook remix version, which isn't the original, but is, to my ears and I think for most people, the definitive version. The groove goes like this. So this is a really interesting thing, I think, because this groove, as it appears in this version, the Norman Cook mix, is actually two different drum beats which have been sampled and kind of blended together. Predominantly, it's a sample of the drum beat from a song called Mary Mary by the Monkees, right, from way back. That song has a 2-bar drum intro, and when I'll link to that in the description below. When you hear that drum intro, you'll go, oh yeah, of course it is. Like it's a direct lift of that. Blended with that though, and in particular, the hi-hat to my ears is John Bonham's drumming from the Led Zeppelin song called The Crunge, right? Which is it's like a sort of James Brown funk kind of pastiche thing. It's kind of a fun little tune. They're obviously having a lot of fun playing it. It's like a James Brown pastiche thing in 9/8, right? Because you're Led Zeppelin, so why not? And so it's those two things blended together. So it's definitely worth having a listen to those to see where this comes from. I'm only in this video talking about the basic core groove from Brimful of Asha, the Norman Cook version. I'll do another video some other time where I play through the whole thing with the stops and the starts and the other things, the little fills and the drum fill that comes in, all that kind of stuff. But this is the main core groove if you just want to jam along to it. So we'll build it up bit by bit. Now, starting with the Monkees thing, the hi-hat there is closed or mostly closed. It kind of does open slightly at the beginning, very slightly, but we'll play it as a closed thing first of all. This is like a grade 2, I guess, kind of level thing. So ignoring, first of all, the closed hi-hats, we're going to play this. So loads and loads and loads of you guys will be familiar with that sort of groove. It's a basic straight 8s feel, isn't it? Kick, snare, kick, kick, snare, kick. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and with a nice 8th note hi-hat pulse. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's got that little skip note, that classic funk kind of thing, which is a little skip note on the R of beat 2, which goes in between the hi-hats. So many tunes have this groove. I'm aware that it's nothing like particular to this song. So many tunes have that little skip note in and a beat of this nature. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now that bit all depends where you're at, honestly, with your drumming, doesn't it? If you're if you've done loads of grooves at that point, you'd be like, yeah, cool. As soon as you hear that, you'd be like, yeah, fine, no big deal at all. If you're not, that's completely cool. All you've got to do is take some time to build that coordination a little bit. That's the key point there for me, is that snare drum, if you're playing straight 8s on the hi-hat like we are here, the snare drum, the skip note on the drops in between the hi-hat flow, right? So 1 and 2, here's the key moment, and 3 and 4, and you got it? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Got a few videos that involve building up that sort of coordination, so I'll link to those in the description below. Spend some time with that if you need to. That's the kind of grade 2 to grade 3 element, I suppose. And the other grade 2 and 3 element is the open and close hi-hat. There are 2 open close hi-hats here. Now, just to keep the notation simple, I didn't write the hi-hat with the foot, but the idea here is you close the hi-hat on the next 8th note after you've opened it. Let's take them in turn. So the first open hi-hat is on the first beat, man, right at the beginning of the bar. So if we add that in now, so we're playing the full thing, but only one of the open hi-hats. So the first one that appears right at the start, that would sound like this. You got it? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So on that first beat of the bar, as you hit the hi-hat with your stick and the bass drum, you're going to lift up your left foot on the hi-hat. I'm a big fan with this sort of groove most of the time of heel down on the hi-hat. So playing with your heel flat on the floor and lifting up your toes to make the hi-hat open. The main reason for that is you can control the sound that you get out of the hi-hat, especially with acoustic hi-hat, honestly, or more fancy electronic hi-hats. You can actually control the sound that you're getting a bit more. When you play heel up, like a lot of guys do, like one of my students calls it a walking on the moon leg, when you just lift your foot up and down like that. It's okay, but your hi-hat basically becomes a switch, doesn't it? It's either wide open or totally closed. When you've got your heel down and you're just lifting up your toes, you can really have close control over how open the hi-hat is. And very often, the best sound here with an open hi-hat, in my opinion, to my ears, comes from not fully opening the hi-hat, but just opening it enough, that kind of sizzly open hi-hat. And in particular on this track, I would say that's the sound we're looking for here. So it's not wide open. And my trusty, what is this, a VH11 hi-hat, is okay at reproducing this, but not as good as acoustic hi-hats, honestly. So yeah, the idea here is not to go wide open. I'm a big fan of heel down, lifting up your toes to open the hi-hat here for that reason. So let's play a little more, just the open hi-hat on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, if you're happy with that, the next thing would be the other open hi-hat, which is on the and of beat 3. On the Monkeys groove, the second bar of that drum intro, the hi-hat sort of opens on beat 1 a little bit, but it definitely doesn't open in this position on the and of beat 3. This is where the Led Zeppelin thing comes in, where it sort of does. It has that feel a bit more. So this is where I think the Led Zeppelin, the John Bonham hi-hat has been blended in here to give you the hi-hat's opening sound on what in this piece of music is the and of beat 3. So full thing now. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. 2, 3, and 4, and 1. 2, 3, and 4. So that's the basic idea, man. Let's go over it one more time again. I'm first of all going to play closed hi-hat and the kick part fully, and just a backbeat style snare. So first of all, not even the skip note on the snare. This would be sort of stage 1 if you're at that kind of grade 2 or 3 level and building this up. So this is like first bass, man. And you could play this with the song, it would work okay. We're now going to add in the skip note on the of beat 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're now going to add in the first hi-hat on, open hi-hat that is, on beat 1. And people are going to say, oh, that sounds like Walk This Way by Run DMC. Yeah, it does a bit. The Run DMC one goes. So the skip note there is played by the kick, the bass drum, not the open hi-hat. And now I'm going to... Oh, by the way, Run DMC, I think it was Run DMC, also did a song called Mary Mary, which also sampled the Mary Mary drum beat, right, from the Monkeys. Just by the by, while we're talking about it. Okay, now I'm going to play the full thing. I'll go slow with all the parts, both open hi-hats, and I'll build up the speed as we go. Here it comes. All right, so that's that. As I say, that's not the full score for the whole song. That's just the main groove if you want to jam along with it. And depending on what level you're at, I'm aware that people watch these videos at all sorts of levels, actually, which is kind of interesting when you're putting them together. So any of those levels would work fine, even if you're just playing a basic kick and snare, like backbeat style snare, just a 2 and 4 hit. That works, that's okay. If you can get the skip note on the snare drum in, the of beat 2, I'd say even better, because it starts to feel a bit more like the real thing, doesn't it? If you can do the open hi-hat, even the first one, cool. Again, it starts to feel more like it. And obviously, if you can do the whole thing, then completely brilliant. One other thing to say is there are quite a lot of other sounds going on the Norman Cook mix of this track. There's like sound effects, there's a little shaker going on, there's a whole lot of other sort of sounds going on, of course, which is part of the whole Norman Cook sound, which is great. Obviously, I'm talking about here the core part that would be played on a drum kit or has drum kit sounds to it, rather than all the other sort of stuff that's going on that's vaguely percussive in the song. I'm talking about the core drum part here. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. Thanks for watching as always. Really appreciate it. Please like, share and subscribe if you want to get notification every time I upload a video, which is pretty much every day at the minute. Please click the little bell icon when you subscribe. Thanks for being here as always. Cheers.